usually it's a very, very primitive idea. It might just be, I'm trying to think of the latest song I wrote. Yeah, so the latest song I wrote was to help Bare Knuckles pick up launch for Nolly.
Yeah.
And the first 5 notes of the riff are like this little motif that kind of cycles around. And that was just the first thing that I'd written. And I just came up with that little motif and I was playing it over and over. And then once I have that like idea, I like to kind of get straight into Logic or whatever DAW you might have. But I like to get bass and drums, and I could, whenever I'm writing, I usually hear a groove in my head already, like when I'm writing a riff or something. But I like to get it programmed, and then I start adding instruments quite quickly, and that none of them stay in place for too long, but it's just to kind of explore like textural ideas and how the riff can kind of change groove and like change snare placements. And then I just kind of go about it like section by section. Like if I've had like a really fat riff as the intro, I usually kind of like to tone it down for a verse and have like a melody come through. But I've always been a fan of trying to have music that is cool and interesting in a proggy sense, but also like has more memorable melodies than some of the prog that I've listened to in the past.
I know exactly what you're trying to go for. Yeah, it's really tricky to do.
It definitely is, and that's why I've always liked intervals and Pliny to a lesser degree, because I think Pliny's getting really like cool and experimental with its music. But like intervals is, I mean, when I've broken down the songs to teach like composition to students and stuff, it's literally like a pop song but dressed up in a progressive rock.
That's what metal. A lot of them are, yeah.
Because it's that everything starts with an intro and hops into a verse and then has a chorus, and then it's verse 2 with like a slightly different melody over the same kind of chord progression. And the chords are never like that involved. They're usually quite diatonic progressions, but the spice and the sugar and all that good stuff is mainly from like the instrumentation and how intricate the parts are and how well performed the parts are. Like Jacob, the bass player, is a fucking nutter on bass, so he's always doing something mad. And obviously Aaron is very talented at guitar.
Bit crazy,
yeah, a little bit. He's all right. No, he's sick. So that when it all comes together, I think it becomes greater than the sum of its parts. Not to say that the songs are simple, but it's just,
I know what you mean.
It's just to remind people that to write progressive music, it doesn't have to be a 1916 bar followed by a 1516 bar followed by 0 melodies and mad drum fills. Yeah. They have their place. They certainly do, but I think it needs to be controlled better than what I hear some people do, because I like to use the term some people's music is a bit like a riff salad.
Yeah,
it's just
heard that one. Yeah,
it's just like riff, different riff. I've not heard that riff before. Riff, and then the song ends, and then you put the next song on, and it's like, right, 5 more riffs just following each other, and it needs, I would say, Protest the Hero or a little bit like that, not to cast any shade.
You can have your opinions.
But I think what works for them is the fact that they have vocals and such a strong melodic direction with that they can get away with doing mental riffs, because they do have choruses with a strong melodic hook. Whereas if you take vocals away, then I think people forget the fact that they're losing the main draw of what the people like about the music. And you'll always get the minority that think that like, oh, give us instrumentals of like the Periphery album. But I think when you strip back the songs are written for vocals at the end of the day. So writing for instrumental music, you have to be very careful and include melodies, and you have to be a lot more careful with your textural ideas and how the composition flows as a whole, rather than just having, Dream Theater did this mad instrumental bit in one of their 15-minute songs, so I'm just going to write a mad instrumental bit and call it prog. Like, yeah, okay, cool, but like, why am I going to go back and listen to that thing again? Probably not, because I can't even, I can't even sing back a melody. But the biggest test that you can do is I can put like one of Pliny's songs on and play Every Piece Matters, And my partner Zoe, she'll be singing the melody because she's just heard it, and that's how you know, like, that's a strong melody. And he repeats it like 5 or 6 times throughout the song. Yeah, it's still prog, like it's still instrumental prog, whatever you want to call it. But it's at the foundation, it's a lot simpler than meets the eye. Like he's even said as much in a few of his like YouTube lessons that he's done with Guitar World or whatever, you know. Anyway, rant over.